So I took a picture of myself with all my gear. All of a sudden, it's like, oh shit, I'm getting a ton of likes on that. Visually, that's appealing, but the captions are just as important as the photos. So for me, I started realizing if I ask people a production question or if I try to just have a discussion with people, it really got people engaged.
Let's be honest, you're not gonna find these videos anywhere else. Why? Because I make them. So it would really help me out if you subscribe. If you've already subscribed, what also really helps is if you like the video and leave a comment. It's hard in the era of clickbait videos on YouTube and negativity in the producer community, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. I'm really excited about this interview with Neon Vines. I think it's one of the most informative producer interviews I've ever done, and I think it's because I'm having a conversation with Neon Vines right in the middle of her ascent. So she's already had a bunch of successes, but she's in the middle of her process, and so she's so close to the process, she can explain it, she can give advice, she can give actionable items to the producers watching the interview. And that's why I'm so excited to bring it to you, because there's just so much to learn, and that's why this is part 1 of 2, because it's a really long and dense interview. So shout out to her for making time to have this conversation with me and share this practical and actionable advice that you can listen to in the interview and then immediately after listening, start applying to your own producer brands so you can start building them up. So enjoy, follow Neon Vines on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, and I thank you for watching. Okay, well, Neon Vines, thanks so much for taking the time. This was actually the most difficult interview to schedule for me ever.
Oh, why? Because of me?
You know, I wasn't going to say that, but
I'm not good with my Instagram messages. Like, I get so much just BS. I hate to say it, but like that, I just don't check it that often. But yeah.
well, you travel a lot too, and you were just
Yeah.
traveling. You were just at Nam, right? Do
Yeah.
they say Nam or do they say Nam?
It's NAM.
Damn.
Yeah, so I did CES, which is like, I actually didn't even know about CES before, but that's like, I think it's the biggest technology conference in the world. And I went there with Roland, which they were actually the only instrument manufacturing company there, which is interesting. So I did that for the week, and then I had like 4 days and then went right to NAM. So it's been like a lot, but it's good. It's just, I definitely need to, I'm finding my equilibrium again by coming back. So it's nice.
Yeah, that's a rough balance. Do you ever just tour? I know you're traveling all the time, but as a performer, do you tour as well?
Right now, that's like not on my agenda. For me, I see touring as like something I can always kind of decide to do. But right now, like I'm really focused on just building the connections, building the framework, so to speak, of like my career, kind of the foundation of everything. And then when, touring is going to obviously be very important for me at some point. But right now, I'm feeling like I'm just kind of maxing out on the opportunities that are coming my way. And right now, that's a lot of brand work, marketing style plays, and things like that, with featuring gear and showcasing different products and audio, whatever, things related to that. So it's been really good. And I mean, it's been really exciting for me, but like the balance between the marketing side of things and working with brands and like, doing what I want to do as an artist, finding the balance between that, I think is going to be the secret for me. And I'm realizing that more and more because, I mean, I'm getting more opportunities with brands that I ever even like imagined. I didn't even think this was going to happen, but like a year ago when I got contacted by Akai, they were the first brand to reach out to me. And then after that, it was just like a spiral of like companies reaching out to me. And then I tried to just like take everything I could. But now I'm at a point where like I really can't. And it's really not even a positive thing all the time now to sort of do that because it's deviating away from my true passion, So it's like, it's finding the balance. I like it and it's been good for me, but there's definitely some downsides to it too.
Well, that was a hell of an answer. Thanks for being honest about that, because that's one of those things that I think probably a lot of us are struggling with, because the thing, and I'm making an assumption about your music career based on how mine is, but the majority of my income comes from music, but then a lot of it comes from these other kind of peripheral opportunities that are related to music. Like you said, like brand partnerships,
Totally.
and educational endeavors, that kind of thing. And it's just so difficult because, and I don't know if you feel this way, but there's this, with being a career musician, career artist, career creative, there's always that doubt that you're not going to be able to make enough money just off of your art, and so you want to take every opportunity while they're being offered to you.
Mm. Exactly. I think like starting off, that's what you should do, but like knowing when it's time to be selective is key.
And I guess ask for way bigger checks. That's one way to eliminate a lot of extra stuff.
Definitely.
So I
Definitely.
want to talk about all of that because that was a mouthful. But just starting off, just to get some background information on you, do you have formal training, either musical or technical?
Yeah, for sure. So I started with classical piano when I was like, I think it was like 6 or something. And then I did drums. I started at 10. I did drumline through high school. And I was actually in a world-class drumline. I played marimba randomly enough. And that was when I was still in high school. And I feel like marimba skills, randomly enough, really apply to the seaboard. So, because it's like a sense of body awareness when you're playing a 10-foot long instrument, where your body is positioned is very critical. So it's the same thing with the seaboard because you can play between pitches. You have to be very accurate with body placement, where your hands are. So I've been developing skills that I didn't know what they were going to eventually apply to. It was mostly acoustic style stuff, like I said, piano, a little bit of guitar and things like that. But I didn't sort of venture into like the production world and the technical world until honestly like maybe 3 years ago. I've dabbled in Pro Tools for 10 years, only to suit my own purposes, really just to record my own songs for my own reasons. But learning technology in order to be able to become who I am now, Neon Vines, was like a total shift. So essentially what I think of Neon Vines as is like a complete rebranding of myself, because before that, I was just going by my own name, doing acoustic style performances, even just piano and singing. I sang in a wedding band for a number of years in DC, did just random music escapades here and there. Didn't really feel like anything was fitting until I just went for it, because I had a full-time job in DC 2 years ago, answering emergency service calls over the phone, completely just left music. I still loved music, but I was like, I need to make money, dude. I'm not making money. And I didn't know what I wanted to do in music. So it made sense why I wasn't making money. But getting that job and having that job and not being able to do the things that I eventually realized meant so much to me really pushed me to the edge and motivated me to venture into this world that I'm in now.
So Neon Vines as this new identity has only lasted for what you said, 3 years?
Well, it's been actually not even 2 years since I became Neon Vine. So that's going to be in like April of this year. It's going to be 2 years. But I mean, before becoming Neon Vines, like I just got obsessed with learning gear and software and all the technical stuff. So, I mean, I've been formulating this idea of what I've wanted to do for a while, but I didn't officially launch, I guess, until that point. Yeah.
Okay, this is a good segue then. What was your first piece of gear?
First piece of gear was MPCX Akai. I got that in January of 2018. I'm so bad with time, but it was like 2 years ago, pretty much. And the reason I got it is because I was just listening to music on the radio being like, how the fuck does this sound so amazing? And I'm like, how are their drums sounding so good? So then just out of curiosity, I was like, I wonder what the most expensive beat machine out there is. And then I looked up, I saw MPCX, it's like 2,400 or something like that. I'm like, geez, that's a lot. I wonder why it's so expensive, So then I just dove in. I'm like, oh my God, I can do that. I can do that. I'm like, I feel like it's worth investing in. Like I just eventually sold myself on it. And in my mind, I thought, well, Guitar Center has like a 3-month return policy. So if I can't figure this thing out, I'll just return it. But I read the whole manual. It's like 300-page manual. Took me freaking forever to figure it out. It was not like a click, this is what I'm meant to do with my life. Like, it was like really frustrating and pretty shitty for like the first month of trying to learn it. And then eventually I figured it out. Like, I didn't even get sound out of the thing for like a whole week. Like, I just knew nothing, so it was pretty unenjoyable at first, but then I don't know, I love it now. So
What drove you to persist then at that point? Because a lot of, I hear from music, and I'm sure you hear this all the time from especially producers who they already are making beats. They've been making beats forever, but there are just all of these hurdles, whether, the hurdle is turning, your music into a livelihood, or whether it's reaching out to more artists, or so, people are, a lot of creatives, period, not just producers, are on the verge of quitting all the time. And there you were, kind of starting from zero as a beat maker, and yet you persisted and figured it out in spite of all the trouble you were having.
Yeah, it's kind of just like the mentality that I can't let this thing defeat me. Like, because I would go days of making like no progress. Like, it felt like I was working my ass off, but like getting nowhere, And then I would just take a break and then just feel like angry. And I feel like the anger kind of like motivated me to actually like, I'm like, no, I'm not going to chill. I'm not going to take a break. I'm going to go back. I'm going to figure this out. And every day I would not stop working until I felt like there was some sort of milestone reached. Like there, even if I was just like, I really don't even want to be doing this anymore. Like, I'm so tired. I would not stop until I felt like, okay, this is what we've achieved. And I actually would like write down the things I learned that day. Like, it sounds kind of cheesy and nerdy, whatever, but like I would say, okay, I learned how to sequence a beat. I learned how to find the right samples, just even if it's simple things like that. It really helped me to kind of keep track of what I was learning. And then the next day when I woke up, I would read, okay, what did we learn yesterday? And I would also write down the things I still need to learn, like questions, like, how do I do this? How do I do this? So I think it's really helpful to think about ways you need to improve at the end of the day. Because for whatever reason, like when I'm laying in bed at night, I suddenly have like all this clarity of like ways I can improve my life. And it's like, I feel like a lot of people are like that because it's like, you can't do it then, you have to go to sleep. But then you're just thinking, so for me, I try to write down as many things as I possibly can because I finally have this clarity. And because, when I wake up in the morning, I don't have that same kind of clarity. I'm like, what am I going to do today? Like, I just, it's a different mindset that I have at the start and the end of the day. So I try to take advantage of my mindset at the end of the day, I guess.
So going back to you looking up the most expensive drum machine, which is kind of the opposite, I think, of what most producers do. They'd probably look up what's the cheapest, piece of equipment I can get. Obviously, funding a production career is a challenge. That's another one of those make or break kind of scenarios for a lot of people. Can I fund my music career? And I think a lot of us get caught up in the idea that we're not able to do that. And that just stops us before we even begin. What advice do you give somebody who's in your position where they're still just kind of trying to figure out what they can get, and they're trying to balance, not going broke, but building up their studio?
Totally. Well, I would just say in general to try to have a more optimistic and positive mindset, meaning you might be doing something now. Like for me, I didn't just dive in and like do music and that was the only thing that was making money for me. Like there was a segue for me where I was walking dogs. Like I knocked on people's doors in my neighborhood and was like, hey, does your dog need a walk? Like, to try to make money and things like that. And I always tried not to beat myself up about it. Like at the end of the day, I could sit there and be like, shit, like my prime like income stream right now is dog walking. Like how lame is that? I think it's better to see every step in your journey as something essential to getting to where you ultimately want to go, and not getting too caught up in, the reality of it, and seeing it more as like, this is the stepping stone. This is not the end goal. This is not where I ultimately want to be. But to get the most out of it and see it as a necessary resource. So like for me, dog walking, I didn't like feel ashamed of that. I was like, this is getting me the money I need in order to do the things I need to do to get to the next step of my journey. So yeah, I think it's, you know, getting the most out of wherever you are, even if it's not where you want to be, and staying positive about it.
Well, and now your studio looks amazing. I just recently moved into my own house, and so I kind of built a studio from the ground up. But then I go on your Instagram, and I got to stop going on your Instagram because I look at your studio and I'm just comparing, and then I get disappointed in mine. But what are some of the acoustic treatments that you made to your studio? Because and you know, what kind of flooring, what, you know, this is
Right.
maybe this is a selfish question because I kind of want to know how to improve my acoustics too.
I need to improve that aspect of my studio for sure. But honestly, I just went on Amazon.com. It was like, what's the cheapest bulk soundproofing I can get? I'm just going to nail that shit on the wall everywhere. So like, I seriously just got like the most basic acoustic panels, put them all over the place, even on the ceiling, researched like, you know, where you should put them. But it's pretty, I guess, raw. I don't know. I have some bass traps like in every corner of the room, of course. And I have a really fluffy rug, which actually helps a lot. But other than that, I haven't gotten too crazy with soundproofing, but that's something I'm interested in for sure. But,
What kind of bass straps are they? The foam or are they the panels?
yeah, they're foam. They're from Amazon. I don't know.
Got it.
If
Yeah.
you put bass trap into Amazon, it's probably the first one that you find, or the cheapest one. Yeah.
I have 3 different kinds of bass traps in my corner, and then a box just to fill space. Hey,
Yeah.
it's trapping
Exactly.
bass, so I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of the point,
I
right?
take some blankets up, like whatever. I don't know. It's kind of raw.
So back to, and I wanted to pick up on this right when you said it, but your very first brand partnership was with Akai, and
Hmm.
coincidentally, that's the manufacturer of the first piece of gear you ever bought.
Yeah, that's true. That actually is a coincidence, though, because they reached out to me. It was for NAM. They were going to launch the Akai Force, and NAM was like, I don't know, it's like mid-January every year or something. And they reached out to me very late December, and they're like, "Hey, you know, we have this new product. Are you interested in being a part of it?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, you know, tell me more." And then they wanted to fly me out to LA to film a video with it. And it was not a traditional kind of video they wanted to do. They wanted it to sort of brand the singer-songwriter in combination with electronic gear. So they wanted it just to be me singing with the Akai Force. And they gave me a pretty strict like criteria of what they're looking for. They're like, try to make it like 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Make it, you know, have all acoustic style instruments in it, like pianos, drums, things that are, you know, not too electronic-y. And have your vocals be the focus of it. So that was kind of like what they asked me to do. So I went down there, we filmed that video, and that's when they asked me, "Hey, do you want to be a part of NAM with us and perform at NAM?" So I was like, yeah, definitely. But they reached out to me pretty spontaneously, not because of anything I had posted per se, but they did find me because they were researching for a vocalist who is familiar with Akai gear. So it just kind of was a coincidence, I guess.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to ask you about that because you said, you know, after that partnership, they just all started kind of coming in.
Yeah.
And looking at your social media, looking at your visual branding, looking at your consistency, I mean, it seems like you're a very clear choice for brand partnerships. What's your approach to creating the kind of content that you create for social media? Because that's a big challenge for creatives.
That's a good question. Yeah. So for me at first, when I was becoming Neon Vines, like I had no goals. Like I had no, like sponsorships was never even like a possibility. Like that was just not even on my radar at all. So I just started posting. I posted like a video of me performing with a setup or something, and then a couple other pictures of me. And then I was just like, hey, I'm going to take a picture of me with all my studio gear. So I took a picture of myself with all my gear. All of a sudden, it's like, oh shit, I'm getting a ton of likes on that. Like, very noticeable difference from the other content I was posting. So it started to make me think, okay, what are people actually interested in here? And it's the combination of me being a female, which will always own up to. That is a very valuable asset for me in my career. And me having a lot of knowledge about studio gear and being a nerd in that whole world. So it's the combination of those two factors that is my appeal and what is really my brand. And it took me a minute to figure that out, but once I did, I was like, okay, well, what are people interested in hearing from me? Because clearly, like, visually that's appealing, but the captions are just as important as the photos. So for me, I started realizing if I ask people a production question, or if I try to just have a discussion with people about, something that everybody can contribute to. What's your workflow? What's your preferred piece of gear? How do you start a project? Things that are basic that everybody can have something to say about. It really got people engaged, and a lot of studio accounts started sharing me and sharing my studio pictures, which really helped me get more followers. And I started thinking, okay, well, the focus is really on the gear, though. It's me and the gear, but it's mostly the education and the gear, because I would post pictures of myself, and they would be like no one fucking cared, But like if it's me and my gear, like that was the combination that I figured out worked, and then I don't know, I just kind of took that to where it is now. But